Good morning students, welcome all of you to online English class. In the previous class we had just discussed an environmental essay written by Vandana Shiva, that is everything I need to know I learned in the forest. And in the previous classes we have seen how Vandana Shiva spent her childhood in the Himalayan region and how she was inspired by the uneducated rural women of Garhwal region and the dramatic action which took place during Chipko movement, that is the incident of Bachni Devi. Later on she speaks about beyond monocultures and how the different rights of nature have been recognized by different countries on the global stage. And later she focuses on the opinions of Francis Bacon and Caroline Marchant regarding earth as mother or earth as raw material or dead matter. Later she speaks about Earth University and Earth Democracy, where she demonstrates and she teaches the different participants how to perform organic farming. In today's session, we will discuss the poetry of the forest as recognized by Rabindranath Tagore. The Earth University is inspired by Rabindranath Tagore, India's national poet and a Nobel Prize laureate. Tagore started a learning center in Shantiniketan in West Bengal, India as a forest school, both to take inspiration from nature and to create an Indian cultural renaissance. The school became a university in 1921, growing into one of India's most famous centers of learning. Today, just as in Tagore's time, we need to turn to nature and the forest for lessons in freedom. In his essay Tapovan, Forest of Purity, Tagore writes, Indian civilization has been distinctive in locating its source of regeneration, material and intellectual in the forest, not the city. India's best ideas have come where man was in communion with trees and rivers and lakes, away from the crowds. The peace of the forest has helped the intellectual evolution of man. The culture of the forest has fueled the culture of Indian society. The culture that has arisen from the forest has been influenced by the diverse process of renewal of life which are always at play in the forest, varying from species to species, from season to season, in sight and sound and smell. The unifying principle of life in diversity, of democratic pluralism, thus became the principle of Indian civilization. It is this unity in diversity that is basis of both ecological sustainability and democracy. Diversity without unity becomes the source of conflict and contest. Unity without diversity becomes the ground for external control. This is true of both nature and culture. The forest is a unity in its diversity and we are united with nature through our relationship with the forest. Now Vandana Shiva is emphasizing and throwing light on the importance of forest ultimately as even recognized by the Nobel laureate, that is Rabindranath Tagore. The Earth University is inspired by Rabindranath Tagore, India's national poet and Nobel Prize laureate. So why Vandana Shiva established this Earth University? Because she was inspired by Rabindranath Tagore. As Rabindranath Tagore started this Shantiniketan in West Bengal, a forest school. So why he started that forest school? Because of two reasons. One is to take inspiration from nature. So he wanted to create an inspiration among the young learners and children from nature. So how we can get inspiration and inspired by nature and the diverse process and phenomena which happens in nature. And to create an Indian cultural renaissance. Another purpose or intention for establishing this Shantiniketan is to create an Indian cultural renaissance. It means to create an awareness among the children and to create the link between the forgotten culture and to renew it. Renaissance, rebirth, giving another life for our culture. So our culture we have completely forgotten, but here Rabindranath Tagore has started this forest school to symbolically say that our culture starts from nature. So nature is our first mother. So that's why he started that Shantiniketan, a forest school. The school became a university in 1921. In 1921, the school, which started as a forest school, later it became a university, growing into one of India's most famous centers of learning. Today, this Shantiniketan is India's most famous centers of learning. Today, just as in Tagore's time, we need to turn to nature and the forest for lessons in freedom. According to Vandana Shiva, just like Rabindranath Tagore, even we need to turn to nature. Turn to nature means even we need to look at nature as superior to learn lessons in freedom. So whatever the lessons we want to learn, morality, principles, everything we can learn from nature. And Rabindranath Tagore has written an essay called Tapovan, forest of purity, means the forest which is very pure. Pure not only in its existence, pure in its philosophy, pure in its phenomena, pure in its procedure, even pure in its dependence on all living organisms, and pure in the form of interconnection and interdependency of all living organisms, trees, plants, animals, birds which live in the forest. So that's why he named his essay as Forest of Purity. And in that essay, he clearly writes and mentions Indian civilization has been distinctive. Distinctive means very different. Indian civilization is very different and very special. Why it is very different and very special? Because it locates its source of regeneration, material and intellectual. It means Indian civilization seeks or it locates the source of regeneration. From where we are going to get this culture, that is regeneration. The culture which follows from one generation to another regeneration. And the second meaning is that where we are going to get the resources from forest, that is material. So from where we are going to get material and intellectual. So intellectual means from where we are going to get different ideas. So inspiration. For example, you take artist and scientist. Artist, he takes inspiration from nature to create his artistic works. It may be a painting, it may be a piece of writing, it may be a poetry, it may be a novel, it may be a novella, it may be a play. He takes inspiration from nature, from society. If you take an artist, and if you take a scientist even he takes inspiration from nature, but instead of creating some other new things, he seeks to study nature. By studying nature, it leads him to do so many inventions. So like scientist and artist, both of them, they take inspiration from nature. So that's why here Rabindranath Tagore is asserting that Indian civilization is very different. It locates its source, its root of regeneration, of its culture, of its resources, that is material, of intellectual. Intellectual means of its different ideas, different achievements in terms of artist and scientist, whoever it might be, who loves nature. In the forest, not the city. So all these things comes from forest but not from city. It means our first home is forest. Our first mother is nature. From nature we can learn these many things, we can earn these many things. What we can learn? We can learn our culture of regeneration. What we can earn? We can earn intellectual ideas and we can earn our resources, which are very essential for our livelihood, for our existence, for our survival. All these resources and our intellectual ideas and inspiration we will get from forest but not city. You might have seen all the scientists and even artists, they don't want to mingle with crowd. They don't always be in crowd. They are always separate. Separate means they are single but they are in nature. So scientist is always separate, who is studying the phenomena of nature, who is studying the nature separately, and the artist who is always keen to observe nature and to seek inspiration from nature. India's best ideas have come where man was in communion with trees and rivers and lakes, away from the crowds. India's best ideas have come. So, if you take all the great achievers, all the greatest personalities from India, all of them, whatever the achievement they have done, there is direct or indirect relationship for their achievement with forest, with nature. How? Best ideas always comes when man is not in communion with crowds but he is in communion. Communion means communication. When man will be having communication with trees and rivers and lakes, it means he is not saying that literally we can speak with trees, we can speak with lakes, or we can speak with rivers. But he is saying that by observing, by being in nature, enjoying yourself, observing nature, you can get peace of mind and you can get different thinking which leads you to get different ideas, great ideas. For example, the greatest scientist of India, whom we call the missile man of India, our former lovable president, that is APJ Abdul Kalam, even he got some inspiration from nature to create that missiles when he was observing the birds which were flying over the seashore. He always used to go to sea shore and he used to sit in the beach and he used to observe all these birds which were flying happily. They are having communication with nature. He used to observe those birds from his childhood itself. Then he decided even he want to invent something new, even he want to create something new of that sort. That's why he created missiles. The peace of the forest has helped the intellectual evolution of man. So another benefit, advantage from the forest is that the peace of the forest has helped the intellectual evolution of man. For example, if you take all the Vedas, all the holy scriptures, so all these knowledgeable scriptures, knowledgeable books, knowledgeable Vedas, all these are believed to be written in forest. It means forest, nature gives inspiration, peace of mind, which leads to intellectual evolution, which leads to development of intelligence, progress of intelligence. So when you have peace of mind, you can think creative. The culture of the forest has fueled the culture of Indian society. Along with this, the culture of the forest has fueled. So fueled means it has given aid, it has helped a lot for Indian society. Whatever the culture today we are following, the Indian society's culture, that culture, it has fueled from the culture of the forest. How it has fueled? For example, our give and take policy, interdependence policy, chain link. So all this we can learn from nature itself. For all this, we have nature as the model. For example, whatever you take which man has made, it might be model, it might be new intention, new creation, new invention. But for all this, the model is the primary resource is nature itself. If you look at nature, you will get ideas. Then you might copy nature, or you can even modify nature by creating, inventing new things. But for that, primary resource is nature itself. So that's why here Rabindranath Tagore is saying that the culture of the forest has fueled the culture of Indian society. The culture that has arisen from the forest has been influenced by the diverse process of renewal of life. Now he is just giving a glimpse how the forest culture will be and what will be the procedure and phenomena which happens in forest. The culture that has arisen from the forest has been influenced by the diverse process of renewal of life which are always at play in the forest. It means in the forest, if you see different processes, diverse different processes of renewal of life. Renewal of life, if you look at forest, in forest there are hundreds and thousands of species, animals, birds, trees, insects living. If one dies, another replaces its place. If one dies, the dying animal becomes food for another animal. It means one animal depends upon another animal, one insect depends upon another insect for its existence, for its survival. So one dies to give life to another, renewal of life. One dies to give life to another. Then, which are always at play in the forest. So these processes, these diverse processes are always play. Continuously they are changing, varying from species to species. But this process of their lifestyle, for example, one animal's lifestyle is different from another animal. few are herbivorous, few are carnivorous, few are omnivorous. All these animals and species, they are different in their lifestyle, they are different in giving birth. Few animals lay eggs as well as few animals give birth to their young ones. Like this, the different process of renewal of life, it varies from species to species, from one species to another species, from one animal to another animal. The lifestyle, the life procedure is itself completely different. From season to season. Not only that, if you look at forest, if observe forest, from one season to another season, it continuously changes. In sight, sound and smell, you can observe these changes, you can locate these changes in terms of sight, sound and smell. So forest has got its own kind of sound because of the animals which lives in, and smell and sight. All these three things, sight, sound and smell, these things continuously changes because forest continuously changes, it's ever changing. Each and every day forest is exciting, forest is new thing. Why? There are a lot of changes each and every day. Thus, the unifying principle of life in diversity. So why he is speaking so much about diversity, differentialism, and different organisms, different animals? Why he is saying? Because in spite of all these differences, in spite of all these diverse processes, there is one common thing among all the animals which unifies them, which make them as a whole. So what is that? The unifying principle of life in diversity. So you need to underline this, life in diversity. Though they are different, all the animals and species, they are different in their appearance, in their lifestyle, in their dependence over nature. In each and every terms they are different, but still they are united because all the animals, without any difference, they depend upon nature, they live in nature. So that's why they consider themselves as a family by calling life in diversity. Though they are different, they are unified. Though they are different, they are seeking, they are leading their life among diversity. Of democratic pluralism. Along with that, he is giving another principle, democratic pluralism. Underline this. Pluralism for more number of people. Democracy, freedom. So in nature, if you observe, there is freedom for each and every animal, each and every insect, and each and every insect has its own way of living, its own way of having food, its own way of roaming, its own way of leading its life, enjoying its life. That is democratic pluralism. In nature, no animal dominates the other animal. So no insect is going to dominate the other insect. It is true that one animal kills another animal, one insect kills another insect. Even plants eat insects. But it doesn't mean that they are dominating, they are destroying their life. In a way, they are completely interdependent. If that insect is not there, if one animal is not there for the other animal, it cannot exist, it cannot survive. In this way, one animal is related with the other animal, one animal is interdependent on the other animal, and all of them, they have democratic pluralism, they have their own freedom. Thus became the principle of Indian civilization. So which are the principles of Indian civilization? Life in diversity and democratic pluralism. And this life in diversity and democratic pluralism, the principles of Indian civilization, they have been adopted from the forest and they are given by the forest. Humans, they have adopted these principles, life in diversity and democratic pluralism, from forest. So you can compare the forest to our universe, to our society, where all the animals have equal opportunity, equal freedom to live. Even in society, we have equal opportunity, equal freedom, equal rights to live. But the ironical part is that few powerful, selfish human beings are always trying to dominate and suppress and exploit the other weaker section. The stronger section, politically, financially, intellectually, socially, stronger section is always trying to suppress and exploit weaker section. That is very ironical part, so very pathetic part, because human beings, they don't consider themselves as equal. They always think about their status, political status, social status, economical status, intellectual status, and even in terms of caste, religion. All these differences are there in our society, so-called civilized society, so-called civilians, civilized people, but we divide ourselves. We are going to build walls between us in the name of caste, in the name of color, in the name of language, in the name of social status, etc., etc. But all these kind of man-made artificial differences are not there when it comes to forest. All the animals live with unity, they belong to one family, their home is forest. Just like animals, even human beings, our home is forest, society, nature, Mother Earth, but we are completely failed to recognize this truth. That's why Rabindranath Tagore has quoted, written about the importance of forest by saying that not only animals, not only insects and different species, trees and plants, even human beings, they are completely dependent upon forest. They should learn this principle of life in diversity and democratic pluralism from forest. It is this unity in diversity that is the basis of both ecological sustainability and democracy. It is this unity in diversity. It means if you follow this unity in diversity, if you think that all are equal, though they are different, but we are equal, each and everyone has equal right, then it becomes the basis for both ecological sustainability. Ecological sustainability means, so whatever the resources, whatever available in nature, including a small insect and all the trees, plants, mountains, rivers, everything, all the resources, all the belongings, all the things which available in nature, sustainability, sustaining all these things, all the living organisms, living things in nature for the next generation. It means one species or one insect should not dominate or destroy or try to subdue the other species. Just like human beings are trying to suppress, control all other organisms, all other living organisms, species, and in a way humans are destroying nature, overusing and misusing these resources, natural resources. We cannot give these natural resources to the next generation. We can't sustain, survive, exist for a long time. We cannot see all these animals, all these natural resources for the next generation. We cannot sustain it if we are being selfish, if we continue to destroy nature. But in spite of all these things, we need to recognize the rights of nature. We need to adapt only two principles, that is life in diversity, democratic pluralism from forest, from nature. If we learn and adapt these principles, then we can sustain both ecology, that is nature, and at the same time we can sustain democracy. Democracy, we can give equal rights to each and every living organism. Diversity without unity becomes the source of conflict and contest. Why unity in diversity is very, very essential? Because here Vandana Shiva gives two reasons. One is diversity without unity becomes source for conflict and contest. Think that there is diversity. So just like, so there are different human beings, different caste, different race, different religion, different languages, culture, tradition, rituals, etc. In all these terms, we are different. And if we don't think that we are human beings, one race, that is human race, then what happens? Conflict and contest. There might be clashes between human beings, among human beings, and there is always a competition between them, not in terms of healthy competition, not in terms of progress or development, but in terms of superior, inferior, intellectual, poor, rich and poor. Whatever the discrimination and whatever the problems today we are facing in human society, and whatever the problems faced by mankind, including this war, including these political issues, including these differences among these different countries, all this because of one reason, that they don't think they are all equal. They are one race, that is human race. We are all one. So we don't have the concept of universal brotherhood, universalism as given by famous poet Kuvempu, who has given the concept of universal human. We are not just related to one country, one state, one race, one caste, one religion, one language. But beyond all these things, we are universal human beings. Means each and everybody is equal. All of us are equal. But in practicality, we don't think like that. So that's why today the human beings are facing these kind of conflict and contest, and they are trying to destroy each other. Unity without diversity becomes the ground for external control. Another reason, we have unity, but we don't have diversity. It means all are one, only one language, one tradition, one culture, so one food habit. If everything is unified, only one thing, there is no diversity, there is no different in taste, then what happens? It becomes ground for external control. External control means some other second person might come and control us. Why? Because our mindset is one, our way of thinking is one, our food habit, our language, our rituals, our tradition, everything is one. The second person, the outer person, can study all these things very easily. If he is successful in studying this, then he can control us easily. How he can control us easily? Because he need not to study each and every person. He need not to study different culture, different race, different tradition. Because we are just unified, we are having only one common thinking, then he can understand that thinking. The second person, outer person, outside person, he can easily control us. So that's why we need to have diversity, at the same time we must have unity. So that's why unity in diversity is a principle of Indian civilization. So just like we have different cultures, different languages, different food habits, different rituals, traditions, different living styles, everything is different, but still we are Indians, we are human beings, we are having equal rights. That we need to recognize even with nature. Though nature is different, the animals which lives in nature are completely different, even they have equal rights. These rights should be recognized and protected by human beings, which they are not actually doing. We human beings, we are not doing it actually. In reality, we are not giving as much importance we should be giving to nature. The forest is a unity in its diversity. Now Vandana Shiva is saying that which is the best example for unity in diversity is forest. Forest is the best prime example for this one, unity in diversity. And we are united with nature through relationship with forest. So how human beings are related to forest, nature? Because we are having direct relationship with forest. We depend upon forest, in a way we depend upon nature for our survival. So that's how human beings depend upon nature for their existence and survival. In Tagore's writing, the forest was not just the source of knowledge and freedom. Now whatever the Tagore has quoted, so Vandana Shiva is elaborating it, even highlighting the important key points in that quote. In Tagore's writing, the forest was not just the source of knowledge and freedom. According to Vandana Shiva, Tagore did not alone highlight the source of knowledge and freedom, that is forest. From forest we get inspiration, intellectual ideas, and even forest teaches freedom. Along with that, it was the source of beauty and joy. Forest is the source of beauty and joy. So if you want to enjoy, we go this traveling tour. So when we travel, we go to natural places. It might be mountainous, it may be waterfalls, it may be historical place, wherever we go. So all these are in nature. We get inspiration, enough enjoyment, enough beauty and joy from nature. So we can enjoy same kind of beauty and joy in forest of art and aesthetics. So art, so which has given inspiration for all the artists, that is nature, and aesthetics. Aesthetics, it is a study of beauty. So all the aesthetics, aesthetician, those who want to study this beauty, they seek inspiration from nature. Why? Because each and everything in nature is beautiful. We cannot just create more beautiful things than natural things. If we try also, if we try to copy also, all these things become artificial things. There may be one or the other defect, or there might be side effects, disadvantages, but in nature, each and everything is beautiful. We cannot just copy it. We can just say, wow, all these things are wonderful, wonderful creations. So that's how we can enjoy the beauty of nature, of harmony and perfection. And along with that, harmony. Harmony means living in cooperation, living with cooperation. If you look at forest, all the animals live with cooperation. And perfection. In nature, we can find this perfection, we can find this balance, but due to the destructive nature of human beings, there is a lot of imbalance in nature. If human beings, they consider and recognize the rights of nature, and if they believe nature as mother, earth as mother, then if they look at, and if they look at nature as superior, then surely there will be balance in nature and we can avoid all these natural calamities. It symbolizes the universe. Forest symbolizes universe. The forest teaches us union and compassion. From forest we can learn two key qualities, key virtues, that is union and compassion. Union, being in unity, living with integrity, and compassion, being kind and showing mercy, helping others. The forest also teaches us enoughness as a principle of equity, how to enjoy the gifts of nature without exploitation and accumulation. Along with this, forest also teaches us enoughness. So enoughness, we need to say enough. We should not be so selfish to collect so many things. As a principle of equity. So why we need to say enough? Because if we go on collecting the things, go on collecting the resources, go on collecting the money, go on collecting power, go on dominating others, it might be in shortage for others. Others might not get the food, others might not get money, others might not get houses, others might not get equal opportunity. So that's why we should have this principle of enoughness. How to enjoy the gifts of nature without exploitation and accumulation. We need to enjoy the gifts of nature without exploitation, without destroying it, and without accumulation. Accumulation means collecting, storing. We should not collect and store the beautiful creations of nature. We should just look at those things and we should enjoy. For example, if you see a beautiful flower, just look at it and enjoy its beauty. But we should not pluck it, we should not destroy it by just plucking it or by using those flowers for our own decorative purposes. Tagore quotes from the ancient text written in the forest. So Tagore has quoted from ancient text, that is from Vedas, that know all that moves in this moving world as enveloped by God. Human beings should know that all that moves in this moving world, all the living organisms, all the living things are created. Enveloped means created, assembled, or given by God. So whatever the thing we have in this moving world, each and everything, starting from a small insect and to all the huge animals, all these things are created, assembled, given by God. we need to think, we need to believe like this and find enjoyment through renunciation, not through greed of possession. We need to enjoy the gifts of nature just by enjoyment, by renunciation. Renunciation, we need to reject, we need to say enough. We need to say enough. We are going to just observe and enjoy, but not through greed of possession. We should not have greed to possess the power, to possess resources, to possess wealth, to destroy nature. Possessing wealth and resources means destroying nature. So that's why we need to reject all these things by enjoying, by saying enough. No species in a forest appropriates the share of another species. Every species sustains itself in cooperation with others. In forest, one species, one animal is not going to snatch the food of other animal. After having enough food, the remaining food, it is not going to collect, it is not going to keep with it. It lives there itself in a way to give to other animals. Every species sustains itself in cooperation with others. If you look at forest, each and every animal lives with cooperation. At last, Vandana Shiva is saying that the end of consumerism and accumulation is the beginning of the joy of living. So if we say no to consumerism, consumerism means consuming more and more goods, more and more expensive things, and accumulation means collection. We should not consume more things. We should rely our lifestyle in a simple way and eco-friendly lifestyle. And we should not collect more things, we should not consume, we should not have expensive, luxurious life. If our life is luxurious, then the amount of destruction towards nature is more. If we say no to consumerism and no to accumulation, then it is the beginning for the joy of living. Even human beings can lead a simple life, allowing all other living organisms, living things in nature to live happily. The conflict between greed and compassion, conquest and cooperation, violence and harmony that Tagore wrote about continues today. So Tagore has recognized and wrote the difference between conflict between greed and compassion, where greed symbolizes human beings, compassion symbolizes forest. Conquest symbolizes human beings and cooperation symbolizes forest. Instead of having greed, we need to have compassion. Instead of having conquest, winning nature or winning intention, we should have cooperation. Instead of having violence on nature, we should live with harmony in nature. That Tagore wrote about continues today. Still today, we have this conflict, that is greed and compassion, conquest and cooperation, violence and harmony. And it is the forest that can show us the way beyond this conflict. To come out of this conflict, it means to change our mindset from greed to compassion, to change our mindset from conquest to cooperation, from our mindset from violence to harmony. Instead of exhibiting violence, we need to show harmony. Instead of possessing so many things, we need to show compassion. Instead of winning, destroying nature, we need to be having cooperation with nature. So all these qualities and virtues can be taught to human beings by forest, by nature alone. So that's why we need to turn to nature. So just like Dayananda Saraswati, the one of the philosophers from India, has given the call to go back to Vedas, we have to go back to nature, and we need to consider nature and earth as our mother, our nurturer. The first and primary home is our nature. The first and our prime mother is earth itself. So that's why human beings should recognize the rights of nature. By this, Vandana Shiva ends the essay. She is giving the message that human beings are inseparable part of nature. They need to live in harmony and cooperation with nature. Otherwise, what happens? She has not given, but otherwise, if human beings continue to destroy nature, surely human beings are going to destroy themselves. I hope all of you have understood this. I am going to stop this discussion here. We are going to continue in the next class. This brings me to the end of this essay. I hope all of you have understood this essay. The remaining questions, 1 mark questions and 4 mark questions, I am going to dictate in next class. Until then, all of you take care.